Thanks for having me today. Greatly appreciated. In the next 15 minutes, I'll guide you through our view of digital agility in retail and how to shape up for new realities. But before we start, let me introduce myself. My name is Heyenga, and I'm in the product industry marketing team here at Adobe. I'm responsible for retail go-to-market in EMEA, as well as global automotive, the go-to-market. I'm based out of Munich, Germany. That means I get to spend my days talking to market leading organizations that work around retail and automotive, talking about their marketing requirements and needs and objectives. So let's get going. In these days, I believe we cannot speak in any industry context without touching the current crisis and the impact it has, especially also on retail. So when we talk about retail, we really kind of see that the transition that was already there into e-commerce has kind of boosted massively. We saw over 77% in year-over-year increase. We saw 195% pickup in buying online pickup in store just in May. And our Vivek, our Adobe's Digital Insight Manager, they saw, from the numbers we're seeing across these different platforms, we see an increase of 4 to 6 years within that short time frame where the whole lockdown came through. So this is a massive impact, and how retailers respond is key also to loyalty, because loyalty matters. And this brief moment in the time there is significant input for each person of this, and it does impact how we are handling a brand, a retailer, or some around us. We know from this research that's shown here, you can see around 89% respondents had said they were very or somewhat likely to shop with a brand if they respond positively to a crisis. 67% said they were mainly unlikely. I'm careful to use the word opportunity in here, but approach correctly with the customer's best interest at heart, then the current time could be a great opportunity to show consumers in the retail industry that they are doing good for the community and how to drive things. So keep that in mind. And how to do this is, in our opinion, is to really anticipate the moment that matter. This is the one moment. This is an emergency for each and average customer. So how we respond is key. So being hyper aware, understanding customer behavior and demand changes is a key point. Using intelligent decision making, and leveraging AI, artificial intelligence, machine learning is one of these key things to make meaningful responses to your customers, understanding what's at heart of it. And it's regardless if it's B2B or B2C. We believe it's B2H, business to human, because people don't step out of their expectation role from a private to a business person. So also driving real-time action is key, kind of really driving these kind of relevant experiences in retail that is so important. When we looked at the industry in the last since February practically, we developed 6 pillars of business agility in retail. They're all around the deeper understanding of the customer. So proactive communication and outreach, digital adoption, self-service, shift in brick and mortar strategy, especially in retail, but also community support and new ways of working. Myself, I've been in home office since February, and we're not going to be going back massively and traveling up until next year. So we're working differently. As we have this conference today, we're all being bound home and doing these virtually. In fact, it does work. But I want to touch on 2 or 3 things. All these different pillars you can see in my next slides on the top right corner, how they're going to fit together. But before, let me do some tactical responses we've seen in the industry. So we saw a massive shift in the industry around better understanding the customer, especially in moving budgets to more into the DMP space, more into CRM programs, understanding and online targeting their customers, while all the shops were closed. We did see interesting collaboration in Germany where essential, like DM, Müller, Rossmann, which are essential shoppers and drugstore practically, they joined forces. They are heavy competitors, but during the crisis, they joined forces and jointly reached out to their customer base. Interesting how these kind of different dynamics shape those corporations. In digital adoption, self-service, we did see French Monoprix, where they kind of reinforced a program that they had, in their drawer, to kind of really kind of shape their activities within, non-queuing formula, being in line and checking out without being on the checker cashier in a queue. So really kind of understanding, how do I drive these different engagements? We saw some other pieces where we had Hagebau, who had a huge, or they have a huge digital entity driving e-commerce, but also they had issues getting packages out. So they were using their online stores as hub to be delivering to their customers. So a shift in strategy of moving these locations, using them as a hub for delivering merchandise to the customers in their areas. In Crocs, we did see a massive community support in delivering over 10,000 pairs of shoes to healthcare workers. And an interesting one from Germany too, in the new ways of working, not meaning as I am in here right now speaking to you at my home desk in Munich. No, it's a different way of new working. So all restaurants had to be closed in Germany, but Aldi, the discounter, had massive demand on personnel to stack the shelves. So they did a cooperation and borrowed the people to Aldi to stack the shelves. So they didn't have to go and follow. So they can continue working on a full salary, and this way also helping others to drive these engagements. And that's an interesting perspective on how these different industries interacted, but also how they communicate to their customers. And to think about, how do I drive my customer engagements, I like to introduce you to a little idea of how we think of building that platform, that foundation that you need. We always talk about the digital chassis, in fact. In a car, the chassis is the most important piece because it needs to be very solid, and all these things is being attached to that chassis. And think about this as your digital chassis in your company, which is really kind of driving your engagements. And on that chassis, the components are all the content that you're using across all these different channels that you're supplying content to, all the data points that are being collected and summarized throughout your customer journeys, online and offline, all the customer profile data, all the journey points that you're seeing from your customers are on that chassis, but also making yourself available, making every moment shoppable, and having that commerce ability is key on that chassis. All these four components need to act in real time to drive these experiences that, my 14-year-old girl, my 16-year-old boy, they're Generation X. They want to have things in real time, immediately, at any time. Even in the store, they want to use the mobile and check out. So you need to have that flexibility, the agility to have that on one platform. Just as an idea to picturize how we as Adobe think about platform. The whole thing really starts with a deeper understanding of your customer. So understanding age, purchase history, where's the geolocation of that customer at that moment? Not only pure CRM data, but much, much more around it. To calculate the propensity score of buying, understanding loyalty better, but also using data from web engagements and kind of understand where loyalty sits and what the next best offer might look like on the online store. So kind of understanding from authentication and search history, where has that customer come from? Where is he going? What is the next best offer I can supply to him, either through a chatbot or even on-site with an associate. Last but not least, also saying, how do I use the insights I have from my paid media? What is the interaction being captured, delivers me and tells me as a story? So this is the most exciting opportunity in the past years, slightly going back from our e-consultancy research, but I'm sure as research was done prior to COVID, it's going to be a massive tick up we see. And why those so many different retailers and industries are struggling to better understand your customer is that organizations often are still caught up in the traditional life cycles, while the customers are already on the digital customer life cycles. That's why I'm saying it's regardless if you're B2B or B2C, you're business to human. They're going to be all over the place in different touch points that you don't control. You might be influencing, but you can deliver content. depending on how you're structured, you can even measure what's going on and how to drive these engagements. So this is one of the key things to understand if we're really going to better understand your customer. If we move into the brick and mortar story, there is a lot of challenge in here, because in the lockdown phases, all these stores and the retailers and yourself potentially lost the ability to sell to a person because all shops were closed. So being able to with agility to kind of transform your business and help customers who are potentially furloughed employees sitting at home, moving to digital, not being able to go out there to shop, but still using the time. On the other hand, you as retailers, your inventory was stuck in the channel. You couldn't even move it fastly to an e-commerce area. So being the agile to move these different pieces and parts demands a very strong chassis that you can easily switch between online, offline, move merchandise, understand what customers are doing, and how to drive these different engagements. Expectations have changed during these times. And the future of customer engagement is now kind of the expectation of curbside pickup, buy online, pick up in store, but also to be enabled to order groceries or food pre-order, either for pickup, for home delivery. Also, thing we see is virtual shopping coming very strongly in. People staying at home, feeling comfortable in the security area where they feel good, and using virtual reality in their in their shopping. But also, we are seeing a shift in showroom shopping, where you only have one room with merchandise and you buy there and you get it sent home. Very different way of how to drive these different strategies in retail. But if we look at proactive communication and outreach, there's also the personalization 2.0 behind it, of driving these, in understanding what paid media is. Maybe you have a sports shoe, you can use a 3D visualizer to kind of build your own shoe. So the system will understand how these different things come together. They suggest potentially through a chatbot, potentially next best offer, next best action, but also understand anomalies based on your behavior or customers' behavior. And all that data will be supplied to identification in the online shop to drive that personal one-to-one engagement. But if that person runs into the store, this must be made available to associate, because he then can have a meaningful and valuable discussion with your customers. And that's one thing to see. And if we see that comparison also from a consultancy, retail is massively looking to outperform other industries with their personalized experiences, because it's so key when you're in these shopping modes to kind of drive these engagements. And if we look at, last but not least, all these different information also help you to kind of reactive and proactively respond to your customers, potentially seeing an anomaly that drives a chatbot to contact me as a customer if there is an issue, and resolving that proactively, which with the effect that you shorten call length in your call centers, or even drop them to zero in certain areas where you can drive these kind of engagements. That is key. So understanding these proactive communication outreach areas is one of the key things we see. So experience, in our view, matters more than ever. We each as humans, as individuals, are interacting with brands, retailers all over the world right now. And we are able to be on a fingertip everywhere. And that's the key point to understand, to differentiate yourself. Having that platform, having that chassis is key. So let me go through the key takeaways of today. Being customer centric is one of the key things, and it needs to be at heart of digital transformation. Retailers must strive to deliver personalized experience at scale, not one-to-many, it's one-to-one. So data proficiency requires an integrated technology. It needs that chassis, that platform, that foundation that's enabling content, commerce, data, and the customer profile to interact in real time. So also, last but not least, this aligning of spending plans is essential within the organization to drive these kind of engagements. So thank you very much. Hopefully I helped you to drive our point of view to become business agile. And please reach out if you're interested. Here's my contact details. But also, right now, we are all too good to go for a question and answer. Happy to take your questions and answer them.